Hello and welcome to 50's Thoughts. My name, of course, is 5159Hawk02, and I'm in a very cheaply done cosplay this week. You may be wondering why, but I'm going to explain. You see, I was playing a Minecraft mod recently, Pixel Mod, where you get to put Pokemon into your Minecraft game, and I started thinking while I was collecting all these Pokemon that I played through the games with and, well, watched the show with. And here's the thing. I don't remember anything of the original show. Like, barely anything. So, that's where this idea came from. I've decided to go back and see, does this episode still work? Does this still get me thrown into the series as it did when I was a kid? So, we may do more episodes like this in the future, but today's episode, we are going to be focusing on, does the pilot episode of Pokemon still work? Well, what are we doing here? Let's jump into Pokemon I Choose You and see if it does hold up. Just like any episode of Pokemon, we start with the opening titles. If I remember anything from this show, it is definitely the opening titles and its iconic theme. It's a very hard thing to forget since it's everywhere now. Sure, the graphics during the opening may be a little bit fuzzy in my mind, but when I watch it back, I walk down memory lane with this theme. The Pokemon opening titles is still one of the best opening titles that I have ever seen for an animated show, and even some live action shows today. Many would try to keep it underneath 20 seconds nowadays, that way they can fit as much episode into the running time as possible, but back then, this was kind of the norm, and I wish that more people would do stuff like this. Mainly because this is a highlight reel for new viewers, that way they can understand the show and what the show's about before they jump into it. Many shows nowadays just have a previously on, which is okay, but it doesn't bring them as much hype as this does. Our story starts with a bit of gameplay from the original Pokemon games, before it transitions into a fight between two trainers using a Gengar and a Nidorino. We see that the fight isn't going well for the Nidorino, so the shadowed owner throws a green Pokeball. Not sure if that actually existed in the games, but it's still pretty cool for a generic Pokeball. The camera then pans out to show our hero for the rest of the Pokemon show lifespan, Ash Ketchum. The one thing that always puzzled me about this show is he was 10 in 1997 and he's still 10 now. That's 18 years, people. He should have aged a little bit by now. We get a monologue from Ash about how he wants to become a Pokemon master with some help from an omniscient narrator. Another thing that I like to point out is the narrator for this show, because I think he's one of the best used narrators for a kid show. He pretty much just explains what you need to hear. You know, he explains what happened in the previous episodes, what's going on now, and he pretty much shares about the universe for those who haven't played the games. Now sure, this really isn't his best example of narration because he literally said who Ash was after Ash said who he was, but trust me, he does get better later on in time. Apparently Ash was monologuing too loud, so his mother barges into the room and tells him that he should get some rest for his big day tomorrow. Ash says that he cannot sleep, so his mother changes the channel from the Pokemon Battle Network to Professor Oak's educational tutorial for beginners. Here we learn about the 3 basic starters from the games from both Professor Oak and Ash talking in his sleep. Ash wakes up and realizes that he is late for the Pokemon choosing ceremony, so he rushes to the Pokemon Research Center in his pajamas. I'm surprised that he's not wearing Pokemon pajamas. I mean, everything else in this kid's world revolves around Pokemon. The shows he watches, his toys, his alarm clock, everything. And yet he doesn't have, I don't know, Squirtle pajamas or maybe Charmander, you know, onesies with the little tail coming out the back. Like, it just kind of throws me off a little bit. And here's where we meet Gary, Ash's future rival. From everything that I remember about the previous rivals in the show's history, which really isn't that much, I gotta say Gary Oak is the best one. You wanna know why? He's loved by the townspeople and by the audience. He has his own convertible and his own cheerleading squad. I don't know about you, but I'd really like to have my own cheerleading squad right behind me while I do the show instead of this half-finished wall back here. Yeah. Also too, like I said, he's very lovable to the audience because you know he's the jerk. You know that he is the rival right out of the gate. He is everything that the rival is in the game, but with better comedic timing, with better one-liners, and he's just despicable. And that's what makes him so well written. It's just he knows when to throw these one-liners. He knows when to be comedic. He knows when he needs to be the jerk. And that is the perfect part of Gary Oak. That is what every single piece of Gary Oak is. It's just perfectly timed, perfectly done, jerky guy. And he's pretty much the anti-Ash. So, to summarize everything that I kind of just said, let's just have the cheerleaders take us away.
Gary, he's a man. If he can't do it, no one can.
Thanks, girls. After an exchange between both Gary Oak and Professor Oak, Ash is taken inside to choose his starter Pokemon. When he opens all the Pokeballs, he realizes that they have been taken by other people. When Ash asks if there are any Pokemon that are left, Professor Oak resists, informing him that there is still one Pokemon left. That Pokemon being Pikachu. Wow, Pikachu lost some weight. Oak warns him about the Pikachu not being like every other starter, but Ash is too excited and just blocks him out. Therefore, Pikachu shocks him when Ash tries to give Pikachu a hug.
Shocking, isn't it?
Crap, the show beat me to the joke. I'll get you next time, writers. Along with his new companion, Ash is handed 6 Pokeballs and a Pokedex. See, the 6 Pokeballs, what is just my interpretation, don't have to twist my words here. The 6 Pokeballs seem to represent the 6 Pokemon that you can have in your party, and since Pikachu does not take up one of those Pokeballs, your whole party system still kind of works there. He also gets a Pokédex, which we'll see in a little bit has a character of its own, and acts like a second narrator just saying what each Pokemon that they kind of run into is when they run into a new Pokemon in the show. But until we get to that point where we see the Pokédex kind of become its own character, we get to see Pikachu shock Ash, Professor Oak, and Ash's whole family. So after Pikachu kills all of Ash's family and friends, they leave Pallet Town to begin their journey. Ash is dragging Pikachu along since Pikachu is starting problems for Ash. The explanation for why Ash's Pikachu is being so difficult can pretty much be summed up by the Pokedex.
While being trained, a Pokemon usually stays inside its Pokeball.
You see?
However, there are many exceptions. Some Pokemon hate being confined.
Okay then.
Ash accepts the fact and releases the Pikachu from his makeshift leash, only to be rejected again. When a wild Pidgey appears, Ash tries to get Pikachu to attack it, but it refuses again. Did we honestly expect anything different this time around? So Ash decides that he can catch it without Pikachu, and we get our first instance of Who's That Pokemon?
Who's that Pokemon?
Gee, I don't know. Is it Pikachu?
It's Pikachu! Pikachu!
No kidding, Sherlock. Anyways, after that commercial minigame, we get one of the most annoying parts of Pokemon. taking the Pokeball, throwing it, and watching the creature break out of the ball. Now, sure, in the show, it doesn't actually break the ball like it does in the game, but it was still super annoying to spend hundreds and hundreds of Poke Dollars and seeing that money go down the drain just because you wanted to catch a level 20 Geodude. For God's sakes, just get in the ball! After getting the feeling that most Nintendo fans feel when they couldn't find their favorite character's overpriced amiibo, Pikachu laughs at him for his failed attempt. So I'm the Pikachu of my friend group whenever I criticize Drode for talking about an amiibo that he really wants to get but can never find? Sweet! But Ash will not be defeated so easily, since instead of using his Pokeball again, he decides to catch it with his pajama shirt. His plan fails when Pidgey decides to use both Gust and Sand Attack to defeat our hero. When Ash returns to his bag, he notices a wild Rattata is rummaging through his bag and he shoos it away. And here is one of those lines where I wished they had the Pokédex in the game say.
A forest Pokemon, Rattata. It likes cheese, nuts, fruits, and berries.
Yeah, but this isn't a forest. It's an open field.
It also comes out into open fields to steal food from stupid travelers.
Oh, Pokédex, you sly, iPhone you? He looks over and spots what he thinks to be a single Pidgey and throws a rock at it in hopes for... You know, I really don't understand what he thought would have happened this time around. He soon realizes that he isn't attacking another Pidgey, he was attacking a Sparrow, which the Pokédex describes as...
Unlike Pidgey, Spearow has a terrible attitude. It is very wild and will sometimes attack other Pokemon and humans.
Sparrow then chases Ash and tries to attack him, but Pikachu is caught in Sparrow's line of sight, so the Sparrow decides to change targets. Pikachu defends him by using a Thunder Attack to fry the bird, but the Sparrow calls the cavalry and the flock comes to aid it. Something that I'd like to add is that throughout the show, and especially in this chase is a great example, we get to see that they are truly trying to make this a Pokemon experience. They could have just made this chase a wild chase, but no, they make it so it's like we're running through a Pokemon exhibit. And I like how they did this, because we get to see right out on the bat in this first episode a Nidorino, an Onix, a Gengar, and we only saw one of those. But we get to see dozens of Sparrows, several different Sandshrews, Mankeys, one Magikarp, thank God, and its cooler older brother, Gyarados. And the thing that sells this scene to me is that they're all within the same area. Sure, it may not be exact to the game, but it is very cool to see just this chase and all these little Pokemon in the background that remind you of the Pokemon in the game. The Sparrows knock down Pikachu and start to swarm him, but Ash runs in and grabs Pikachu. The chase ends with Ash and Pikachu jumping off of a waterfall into the waters below. Misty notices that Pikachu is injured and points Ash into the direction of the nearest Pokemon Center. But the flock comes back and Ash tries to convince Pikachu to get in the Pokeball while he sacrifices himself. But Pikachu decides that he won't go down without a fight and uses Thunderball on the flock. The cloudy sky and rain magically disappear for some reason, and the sun shines down on our knocked out heroes while a Ho-Oh flies across the sky above them. The Pokédex explains that Ho-Oh is an undiscovered Pokemon, and our narrator finishes off the episode by taking us out. So, how does this episode hold up? Actually, really well. This episode captures the feel of the original game and introduces the game's world to people who haven't played them yet perfectly. I love how the focus of the episode is on Pikachu and Ash building their friendship so they can work together to be the very best, and it's really interesting to see how Pikachu could go from not trusting Ash at all to putting his full trust in him when he sees that Ash is willing to do the same for him. I always found it strange how your starter in the games trusted you right off the bat, and I'm glad that they decided to do the exact opposite for the show. I'm glad that the story decided to take itself seriously, unlike other game-to-film/TV adaptations we've seen in the past. I especially love the scene where Ash is about to sacrifice himself to the flock so that Pikachu can enter the Pokeball. For something that could have been a goofy, funny moment, they knew that they had to be serious in order for that scene to work. And because they were serious about it, it was easy to get sucked into the scene and feel the emotions that the writer wanted you to feel. The same could be said about the goofy scenes as well. When you're supposed to laugh, you're actually laughing, and they don't run a joke into the ground. Maybe some of the animation and some of the voice acting doesn't hold up compared to the story, but overall it's a fun, nostalgic joyride with great characters, a great soundtrack, and a great origin, and I suggest that you check it out. I have been 5159 Hawk 02, and I'm gonna go catch myself a Togepi.